Hi, it's Anne. Thanks for stopping by. We're going to be making some little baggies today. Isn't this a big, important looking thing? I made tons of these ages ago and I've used them all. They're so handy to put in journals. You can make them any different size that you like. They're great to, maybe just take a little tag to put in, to tuck into a pocket. It just gives you a little extra layer of interactivity, and they're just kind of fun to play with and fiddle with. Super handy. I realized I was very low. Let me show you how I realized I was low. I was down to this one and then this one. I needed one that I'm going to use for a game of shrooms. So I'm going to be talking about Game of Shrooms today too. Game of Shrooms is this worldwide, it's like an art scavenger hunt. How I realized I was low, I was down to this one and then this one. I needed one that I'm going to use for a Game of Shrooms. So I'm going to be talking about Game of Shrooms today too. Game of Shrooms is this worldwide, it's like an art scavenger hunt. And if you're interested, you can Google Game of Shrooms 2025 and it can take you to a website that will tell you all about it. There's you can, if you wish to leave a piece of artwork. Well, first of all, let me back up a second. Game of Shrooms is an event in which people all around the world really hide some sort of a mushroom themed piece of artwork in a public space, and they register it on and give clues on social media, and people can go to this map and go, oh, this, here's there's going to be a hidden piece of mushroom artwork in this general area. And if they follow you on social media, then they can get clues to where it is. And it's really fun. It's super, super positive. We need more positive things going on, don't we? We really do. So I did it last year. I had a really good time. I made a full mushroom themed journal, and I spent a long time working on it, but it was really, really fun. I kind of ran out of time this year, so I just kind of made this little mushroom themed notebook that is also super cute and quirky, and Game of Shrooms 2025. I needed a little bag to put it in for when I hide it in, the park. I'm going to let my grandson Barney figure out where it needs to be hidden on that day. But I need a little baggie to put it in, and that's when I realized I was really, really low. So yeah, I did this little watercolor and some of these kind of cartoony watercolors that were in here too. I'll give you a little glimpse inside. This is not a Game of Shrooms video, but there's just a couple little tags front and back. Popped a little bit of these watercolors in there. These are little cutouts from one of those mushroom bags that you get at the grocery store. You take your those paper sacks that you take your mushrooms home in. Little bit of stenciling, a little bit of washi. No great shakes on this, but I think somebody will enjoy finding it. And it's going to be in this little paper bag. So I'm going to set this aside, and I'm just going to make a whole bunch of them for future use. They come in really handy for use in a journal as well. If you have a belly band, here's my standard belly band, and here's one that I haven't decorated the front of, but you can slip a little something in there. I don't have anything that really fits in there, but imagine something is in there and it'll fit really, really nicely under that belly band. And it's really fun to pull the bag out, and then there's something fun to find inside the bag. Let's maybe make something to go underneath here. I have this little notebook sitting around, and that could slip very, very nicely into that spot. But it's even going to be more fun if it's in a little bag. So we're just going to make a bunch of them. Let's see, I make them a lot of times out of book pages, but my favorite kind is our old friend wrapping or packing paper from online purchases. And this is something that came recently. Dan got some sort of supply for his shed project that he's doing. So I'm just going to tear off a piece of this. And what we're going to basically do, and this is just ridiculously simple, which is why we're going to be able to do several of them today. Let me sort of even this out. Nope, I'm going to have to use the bigger piece. So I want to cut off a piece that will wrap around this with a little bit of overlap. So yeah, I forget what Dan got in this shipment. It was something he couldn't get at the local hardware store, and some sort of a clasp or something that he needed for this shed. Okay, so this is going to encase this little notebook, and because it's personal fitting, I don't want it to be wrapped really tight. I want some room for it to give, so that's going to be about the right width. So I'll set that aside and get that folded down. And this is something you've seen me do a million times. It's going to be a little bit noisy. We're just going to crumple it all up and open it up and crumple it again. So this is why when you get that packing paper in purchases and it comes all crumpled up like that, don't worry, because you can use those crumples to good advantage. Yeah, I can still see my folding spots there, and I'm just going to pull out my distress ink. This is vintage photo, but you can use any color you want, and you'll be able to see this. Let me pull you out just a little bit. There we go. And I'm just going to take my ink pad and very lightly rub that. You've seen me and many other people do this many times online, so this are on YouTube videos, so this is not going to be any sort of a surprise, but that's just what I'm doing today with this project. So there we go. And it did seep through just a tiny bit, but I'm okay with that. All right, I'm going to go back to where it was folded originally. Oh, it feels so nice and soft now. It does look a little bit like leather or suede. I just like the visual interest of all that crumply stuff on there. And I'm going to use the art glitter glue, and we're just going to glue this into a tube. I think I'll cut it off or tear it off first. Just to let you know, this is 6.5 inches, this little notebook. I'm going to leave about an inch of headroom, maybe a little bit more, and then we'll leave about an inch or an inch and a half below or longer than we want it, or than the actual piece is. So that's how we can custom fit these. And I'm only tearing this off first so that I can save that all of a piece for later. Just a little bead of glue on the top side here, and a little bit of glue on the underside here. And we'll glue that into a tube. You could just use Scotch tape if you wanted to as well. That would also be fine. There we go. I'm going to grab, I could just tear, I could cut it clean, but I'm going to use my pinking shears here to make a little jaggedy edge. And my blessed mother, if she were here to see me cutting paper with the same pinking shears that I used for fabric, she would not be happy. Let me tell you. We were a household where we were careful about what scissors we used for things. I have, you know, I kind of have to use the pinking shears though, because honestly, here, I'll show you what I have in here. I got some of these, and this is a Fiskars. This is a good brand of scissors, and I got this sort of these decal edge scissors. I'm telling you, I don't think they're worth the plastic that they're formed out of. I should just toss them. I keep them around in a drawer, trying them on different kinds of paper from time to time, because I keep hoping that they'll suddenly redeem themselves. So far, they haven't. I'll show you what they do. Now, this is thin, but even when it tends to do the same thing, even if I put something heavier behind it. I get a nice little cut for the first inch or two, and then it just kind of gets into just this sort of ripping sort of thing. And yeah, so not happy with those scissors. I think I got them at an estate sale, and I feel bad for the dear departed person who must have been just as disappointed in them as I have been. All right, now we're going to make the bottom, and we're going to do that simply by folding up the whole tube. Anyway, that was sorry to be so negative talking about those scissors, but honestly, why do I keep them around? I don't know. Tell me if you have different, and again, I've tried putting lightweight cardstock behind them to no avail. They just do not perform. All right, I'm going to go through both thicknesses and cut just a little wedge off, ending at where I did that fold. And the same here. And then I'm going to cut away one of the thicknesses here. And I'm going to get just as close to that fold as I can, because I don't want a lot of extra bulk there. While I'm at it, why don't I make a little pinked edge here? Not that that's really ever going to be seen all that much. And just a little bead of glue here. You don't need much at all. And there's our little bag. There it is. I mean, you don't really need a tutorial for this. It's just sort of a bit of a demo. I will ink the top, but I just love having just a whole stack of these, and I have used them. I had so many that I made probably a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden I realized I was almost out. There we go. Now let's look here. Here's this little notebook. And it fits nicely in there. And then let's go back to our belly band. And it'll slide nicely under there. And it really doesn't need anything in front. I'll fold that over. It doesn't need anything in the front, but I could, you know, if I wanted to, I have a few little toppers here that were just sitting around. This is kind of cute. It's just this little thing that says "with love." That might be a little bit much though. Maybe I'll do, since we're sort of talking about mushrooms today, why don't I do this mushroom? And you could always sew them on too if you did the planning before you glued your tube together. Yes, I'm excited about Game of Shrooms. The clues, I'll put a couple of clues on my community page here on YouTube, but I'll probably mostly use Instagram for the clues because Game of Shrooms tends to be a very Instagram-centric sort of thing. I am not good at using Instagram. I really don't plan to start all that much, but it's very handy when you want to participate in something like this. Isn't that cute? This nice little bag, and it just sort of invites you like, oh, what's this? It's a bag. Oh, what's in here? Oh, look, there's even more. There's surprises in here. And I think people will feel that way when they find that little mushroom journal as well. Anyway, if you are interested in Game of Shrooms, I realize I keep flip-flapping subjects here. Google Game of Shrooms 2025 and you'll find all the information there. And if you're on Instagram, you can register as an artist and people will do a search for you and turn to you to find fun things like this. My daughter is the one who told me about this, and we just both think it's really fun. She is doing, oh, I'm getting ready to make some more bags now. Here's a piece of Shakespeare here. Using a thin paper is almost always a good idea for making these little baggies. I'm not making for any particular thing here, so I'm not measuring it against the contents. Anyway, Maureen, my daughter, she's a ceramic artist as well as being a midwife. And she is making all kinds of cute little ceramic glazed mushrooms, super cute. And Barney, her little boy, who's 8.5, is excited to help both Mommy and Grandma go out and hide some of their Game of Shrooms things. So anyway, it's a fun little family event. I was looking at some of the Portland, come back and do this upfold here. I was looking at the artist's map with some of the Portland based artists, and I saw that one of my viewers, Laurel, who lives across the river from me, is registered as one of the artists. So Laurel, I hope you will have to check in with each other on how Game of Shrooms went. I had a great deal of fun last year doing my Game of Shrooms journal, and I hid it actually last year at a little gift shop that's here in the neighborhood, and I was in cahoots with the gift shop owner to hide it among the merchandise on her shelves. She worked with me on that. It was really fun. And somebody, I mean, within an hour of that shop opening on that Saturday morning a year ago, there was somebody who was part of the treasure hunt and had looked for artists hiding wares in our area and found my stuff, found my entry and my clues, and was there to claim her prize. It was really fun. She loved her journal. There's one, shall I put something on front? You know, we could make this to be like a little something instead of something that you would put in your in a journal. What about if you wanted to do like a little happy mail or something? I have a little thanks tab here. What if I pull out a little ink and maybe you were taking a little thank you note to a friend, tucking a little something creative and festive, and wanted to do a little homemade paper bag. What if? Imagine those possibilities. And you could just make a very simple little bag. And you could put color on it. You could put some paint. This one's just going to be very simple and neutral. But I know I'll be able to use this for something. It could be tucked into an envelope and sent as happy mail. Could be something you take along when you meet that friend for coffee. You just want to take them a little thank you for some sort of wonderful thing that they did for you, and this is a wonderful thing that you could do for them. There's that one. These little ones are super cute, and why don't I do a couple of smaller ones too? Shall I do that? Let's go back. Oh, this might be awfully small. Let's go back to this scrap of paper. And we'll sort of even that up. And that'll be nice to put a little tag into. These fit really nicely into a journal pocket. Just about come like that. These are always going to be a good standard size. Well, standard size. That's sort of misleading. These, no matter what size you're going to make these, you'll be able to use them for something. I guess that's a more accurate way to put this. There we go. Just those wrinkles make things nice. I've tried this with doing this crumpled up thing with book page too. To be honest, for me, it just seems to work best with the brown paper to do the crinkly sort of thing. I had great hopes at one time of using book page for this crinkly technique, but the brown paper, particularly the thin paper that comes in online purchases, just tends to be the best. Overlap that a little less so I can get the proportions right. The underside and the upper side. That gets both of those edges nicely secured down. I had a fun discussion with my sisters and my brother the other day, because when I was realizing I wanted to make more of these little paper bags, sometimes I was calling them paper bags, and sometimes I was calling them paper sacks. And I think growing up in Nebraska, I think we usually use the term sack. Tell me what was your local vernacular, or what is your local vernacular for little things like this? I think bag is probably the most common, but I know, we tended to use the term sack growing up, and I think about how we would have referenced these paper items. We would have had, a grocery sack. Oh, honey, throw that stuff in the grocery sack, and, we'll, put that garbage in the grocery sack or something like that. Or sack lunch. You're going to have hot lunch today at school, or do you want to take a sack lunch? Oh, you're going to, going out for the afternoon with your friend. You want to take a sack lunch? We never said bag lunch. We said sack lunch. So I use sack and bag interchangeably. And I'm pretty sure we grew up saying sack, but My my siblings had a hard time remembering. I think we both have said bag for many years because we none of us have lived in Nebraska for, for decades. So there's a little one. Let's just do a couple more because we're having fun, aren't we? I was thinking about using a magazine page, if I can find a magazine. What about this one? I have this, oh here, this is, I might actually save for something else. This, I thought there was some beautiful, this isn't a magazine, this is a furniture catalog that came in the mail. That I would not be using this for really anything else. It doesn't suit my journal style, but I thought these photos were so beautiful. And sometime for a gift, I think this will be lovely to use for a gift. So let's, yeah, I don't have any text that's going to be showing on that. Let's just use this, and sometime it's going to be handy to put something in. I know not what, but this I do know, it will not go to waste. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. That was an odd way to quote Casablanca there. I really don't know where that came from, but anyway. Oh, I've had a beautiful day today. I've been out doing work in the garden. It's just looking so nice. Our weather has been beautiful. It's not too hot yet. Barney, our grandson, has his last day of this session of swimming lessons today. So after school, so Dan and I'll hop down to the community center and watch him do his little fishy thing. I like that image up at the top, so I'm going to keep that and just put my pinked edge there above that copper mug. Yeah, we love going to his swimming lessons. It's just so much fun. Of course, we act like he's Michael Phelps or something. Oh, Barney, you go. Good job. Good job. We try not to embarrass him too much, but we sit up there and quietly beam to one another about, we kind of whisper to one another, oh, look. Oh, he went so much further that time. Oh, he's like really coming up to breathe it. He's remembering to turn his head to breathe. Oh, he's the best. It's funny with these pandemic era kids, around the time that Barney and his cohorts would have been taking their original swimming lessons, most likely, they probably would have been like 4 and 5. And instead they ended up being, 6 or 7. Because of course, 2020, there was nothing going on that summer, and even the next summer and a little bit into the next, the community centers were having trouble, staffing. I mean, almost every place was just having trouble staffing, and everything was just sort of in a turmoil with, how they were going to be doing their post-COVID practices and things like that. So anyway, he and his friends that are about his age were taking their, very beginning swimming lessons that they would have had maybe at age 4, when they were 6, some of them were 7, and you have these big kids at the shallow end of the pool going, oh, I don't want to get my face wet. But you know what? They caught up. They caught up. I was, we're very, very proud of, how Barney is doing with swimming, and it's his parents have been really, really good about, making certain that he got enrolled at every session. There's 6-week sessions, and, just a really, really good staff at our local community center. And he loves to swim, so he was not a swimming 4- and 5-year-old, but he is a swimming 6, 7, 8, now almost 9-year-old. And that's a really, really fun thing for us to be able to be part of. This doesn't need any decoration at all. Look at that little bag. How cute is that? That's it for today, folks. This is, you know, just sort of a quickie. I hope that if you have any interest at all in leaving some of your artwork around, you know, tucked underneath a park bench, tucked on a store shelf, tucked, you know, propped up at a bus stop shelter or something like that, think about making some, you know, leaving one of your dear little journals with a mushroom theme for somebody to enjoy. Or maybe you'll be a mushroom seeker on that day. And you can just have fun with whatever you do with your mushroom theme, and start making these little bags. You will use them. I absolutely guarantee you will use them in your journals. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon. Just popping in to say, Game of Shrooms Day is June 14th. Sorry I didn't say that earlier.